Firebase solves the ship a backend this weekend problem better than anything in its class. The catch shows up later. Your data model is shaped around Firestore's document collection structure, your users are stored in Google's identity layer, and your serverless functions run on Google's scheduler. You didn't just adopt a product, you accepted a data model. Today, for self-hostable projects that get you that same velocity without the lifetime Google dependency.
Worth naming exactly what Firebase is, because people underestimate the scope. Firestore is the database. Firebase Auth is the identity layer. Firebase Storage handles files. Cloud Functions run serverless logic. You may use some or all of those. The alternative you need, and how hard the migration is, depends entirely on which of those pieces your app actually relies on.
Here's the field. For alternatives sorted by GitHub stars. Supabase at around 103,000, PocketBase at just under 59,000, Appwrite just over 56,000, and Nhost at around 9,000. What stands out immediately, every project here carries a clean, commercially permissive license: Apache, MIT, BSD, MIT. No source available caveats on this list.
Supabase is the project you reach for when you need the most complete replacement. It's not trying to be a different kind of tool, it's Postgres under the hood. You get auth with row-level security, S3, compatible file storage, real-time subscriptions, and edge functions. Everything Firebase offers, just built on a relational database with decades of tooling around it.
103.3 thousand stars and actively pushed today, among the most active repositories in the open-source ecosystem. Apache 2.0 license, completely permissive, commercially usable, no conditions. The thing to absorb before you commit is that Firestore and Postgres are different paradigms. Firestore stores nested documents, Postgres stores rows and tables with foreign keys. That's not a config difference, it touches every query your app has ever written.
The schema redesign is where migrations stall. Firestore lets you embed subcollections inside documents, a user record with an array of their orders nested right inside it. In Postgres, that's a foreign key and a join. It's not that one is wrong. It's that if your app was built around document nesting, the migration work happens on a whiteboard before you touch any import tooling.
Concretely, any Firestore subcollection becomes a separate Postgres table. Arrays of embedded objects become rows with foreign keys, not John blobs, unless you genuinely need schema flexibility, in which case John is there. Collection group queries across the full database map directly to cross-table queries with the right indexes. Do this mapping on paper first. Once that design is done, the Firebase tools export command and the actual data move is the straightforward half.
If your project doesn't need a full Postgres cluster, prototype, personal SaaS, small team, anything under moderate write load, look at PocketBase before you spin up a Supabase stack. It's a single Go binary. No separate database server, no Redis sidecar, no container orchestration. Download it, run it, and you have auth, file storage, a real-time API, and an admin UI. The whole backend is one process.
58.8 thousand stars, MIT license, pushed yesterday, one of the cleanest stories on this list. MIT means no copyleft, no conditions, commercially straightforward. The honest ceiling, PocketBase uses SQLite, which is single writer by design. That's a feature, zero infra overhead, and a constraint. High concurrency write workloads need Postgres. For an indie product or a startup's first year, PocketBase is almost always the right call.
Appwrite is the project that tries hardest to preserve the Firebase SDK experience. If the reason your team is on Firebase is that the SDK made auth and file uploads trivially easy on iOS, Android, and Flutter, Appwrite is the natural migration target, same client-side patterns, native SDKs across every major platform. Similar API shapes to what you'd write today against Firebase.
56.2 thousand stars, BSD 3-clause license, pushed today. BSD is permissive attribution required in derived works, but commercially usable without conditions. The notable difference from Supabase, Appwrite ships its own document database rather than using Postgres directly. That means if your Firestore schema was heavily document-shaped, you can migrate the data structure more directly without a full relational redesign.
Nhost targets a specific case the others don't lead with. If your team already writes GraphQL and you want Postgres as the data layer, Nhost puts Hazura on top of Postgres and adds auth and storage around it. You get auto-generated GraphQL APIs from your Postgres schema without manually building the GraphQL layer. 9,000 stars, MIT license, pushed today.
The honest assessment of Nhost: it's the smallest community on this list, which means fewer pre-built integrations, fewer production case studies, and less forum coverage when you hit an edge case at 2 in the morning. It's the right pick when GraphQL is a genuine hard requirement, not a nice-to-have, and your team has the engineering capacity to grow with a younger project.
The honest audit on who should stay. If you use Firebase Analytics and Crashlytics for mobile crash intelligence, there's no open-source equivalent at that depth. Those are Google native products tied into Android and iOS SDKs in ways that don't have clean OSS mirrors. Remote config at scale, A/B testing through Firebase, same story. And if you're a solo mobile developer with no DevOps budget, managed Firebase means you don't own a server on weekends. That operational cost doesn't disappear when you self-host.
If you're moving the playbook in order, export Firestore using the Firebase Firestore export command from Firebase Tools. It produces new line delimited JSON per collection. Design your target schema before importing anything. The relational mapping happens on a whiteboard, not in a script. Migrate your auth users through the Firebase auth REST export and import them into Supabase or Appwrite's auth system. Port Cloud Functions to Supabase Edge Functions or Appwrite Functions. The logic carries over, the API surface differs. Then run the old and new backends in parallel for at least 2 weeks, testing every auth flow, storage upload, and real-time listener before you cut over.
That's the 4. The full comparison table, current stars, license details, and self-host notes stays updated as projects change. Links in the description. If this saved you a research sprint, subscribe. One new tool every day, a deep dive like this every week.